Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today, Tim Jordan is going to talk about our climate monitoring facility, which he has spent most of the last year working on. Tim is a recent graduate of Carleton University's Sustainable and Renewable Energy Engineering program, and he's been working with us for almost a year as part of the University of Prince Edward Island's ClimateSense internship program. So Tim, I'll let you get started.
Great, thank you very much. There you go. You guys can see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, so hi everyone. First off, I just want to say thanks so much for taking time out of your day, busy schedules to attend this webinar. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Wind Energy Institute of Canada's new climate monitoring facility, which was erected in partnership with the University of Prince Edward Island's School of Climate Change and Adaptation. So just introduce myself very briefly. So last December, I graduated from Carleton University's Sustainable and Renewable Energy Engineering program. I was lucky enough to be accepted into UPEI's ClimateSense program, which is a professional internship, which is designed to build climate adaptation capacity in recent post-secondary graduates, as well as in the host organizations that they're placed in. Throughout the past 12 months, I've been working primarily with my host organization at WEICan, but I've taken numerous professional development courses with the team from ClimateSense. We had the chance to participate in a month-long policy hack, which I worked on problem, which was how to best support adaptation in agricultural land use planning on Prince Edward Island. ClimateSense has also offered different courses through the Adaptation Learning Network, which is a partnership with universities all across Canada. And we've gotten some professional courses which have led to licensing as well, such as a commercial drone pilot and the lead green associate as well. So for this project, a little bit of a background on why it came to be. Just like the rest of the world, PEI is already experiencing the effects of climate change in its own unique ways. One example of this is that as winters are becoming increasingly warmer, which is something that WEICan actually saw in its own locally collected data from 1987, the amount of time that the sea ice is forming around PEI's coast is, on average, decreasing. The effect that this has is it loses this seasonal buffer that which in turn results in increased erosion rates. But that's not the only effect that PEI is experiencing. Less certainty in seasonal weather patterns due to climate change can increase risks for the agricultural sector on PEI, and increased frequency of major storm events can cause societal harm, which can leave the most vulnerable populations without access to power, water, and supplies for extended periods of time. So the Wind Energy Institute of Canada, which was formerly known as the Atlantic Wind Test Site, has been collecting wind data since 1987, as well as some meteorological data at North Cape in Prince Edward Island. However, there's never been a Met Tower implemented on site that has a sole focus on collecting climate data. Often the Met Towers were erected to support the energy researchers on site. However, much of the data collected in the past can be valuable for climate researchers as well. Let's see. An interesting result when I looked at monthly average wind speeds collected at WEICan is that there was an overall slight average decrease since 1987. However, in 2019, Zhang and others published in Nature that after 2010, this trend had seen a reversal amongst different climate stations worldwide. And interestingly, when we split our data set into these two time periods as well, we saw a similar reversal. And as WEICan recently built a 109 kilowatt solar research facility, a small Met Tower was planned, which would focus on collecting data related to solar panel performance and system monitoring, such as global horizontal irradiance, panel temperatures, and things like that. However, the Climate Challenge Fund, through the Prince Edward Island Department of Environment, Energy, and Climate Change, presented us with a unique opportunity to build out a whole suite of meteorological instruments, along with that original instrumentation to support our solar research. A partnership was agreed with the University of Prince Edward Island to also co-locate 3 smaller Met towers with our larger 30-foot Met tower, and funding was secured. And the purpose for this project is there's a few. One of them is to provide infrastructure for long-term climate change observations and experiments, as well as to research, test, and verify different meteorological measurement systems due to the co-location of these towers. We also wanted to provide insight into the impact of climate change on things like major weather events, precipitation patterns, seasonal temperatures, and renewable energy power production, and how these things can impact different stakeholders. So after some consideration, a layout was decided for these towers. As WEICan's main tower was a bit larger than we had originally thought, at 30 feet tall, it required a larger concrete pad than we initially had planned. And so to ensure consistency between things like temperature measurements, the other concrete pads were sized to match this larger pad. The 3 smaller towers, which are outfitted with University of Prince Edward Island's equipment, are equally spaced, and there's a little bit of extra distance between the closest and WEICan's larger tower. There's also a concrete pad that was poured in front of the others, which holds a present weather sensor, which I'll discuss in a bit more detail later. So I'll run through the different instrumentation that's on our tower. Has lots of different things. So one is a heated ultrasonic anemometer. This allows us to measure both wind speeds and wind directions without worrying about any moving parts. The instrument has an integrated heater, which allows it to consistently measure wind speeds, even during periods of freezing precipitation. It also has a corrosion-resistant enclosure, which is great because it's within 600 feet of the ocean front and has lots of exposure to salt spray. Another sensor that we have is we have a sonic distance sensor. It uses acoustics to measure the distance from the center of the ground, and this gives us an idea of how much snow has actually accumulated beneath the Met Tower. Again, we specifically bought an anodized version just because in this highly corrosive environment. As snowfall has been a bit limited so far, we're still going on with the commissioning with this one. And now we have a lot of different sensors for our solar panels as well. We actually installed 6 backup module temperature sensors in total. What these are fully calibrated PT1000s, and they're encased in a corrosion-resistant enclosure that just stick right back to the solar panels themselves. Only 3 are going into the Met Tower's data logger, hence the 3 curves that are on this chart. The other 3 are actually plugged directly into our solar inverter's data cards and retrieved through our existing interface with that device. Having this many temperature sensors is great because it can actually bring our solar research station into compliance with an IEC standard for Class A high accuracy PV monitoring systems. And to complement this further, we also have 2 fully calibrated pyranometers mounted at the same height as our solar panels. With one pointing directly up and one pointing down, it measures the entire spectrum of radiation that's coming from the sun. This helps as our solar array has a mix of monofacial and bifacial solar panels. There's also an integrated drying cartridge, which helps keep dew off the dome as well. And there are 2 silicon irradiance reference cells. These are basically very small solar panels that are calibrated and can give us a reference for our main solar array's panel performances. Rather than measuring the entire spectrum of irradiance like the previous sensor, they only measure the spectrum that is used by a typical PV module. They're mounted again at the same height as our solar panels, but these are actually tilted at the same angle as well, with one pointing up and one pointing down. This allows us again to gather data for our monofacial and bifacial panel research. Moving on, we have a temperature and relative humidity probe fully calibrated to a traceable standard instrument. There's a radiation shield that it's encased in, which is what you're seeing on that picture. And that ensures valid temperature measurements. When exporting some sample data from just a day that I picked, December 7th, I saw a really drastic drop in temperatures, almost 8 degrees in less than 15 minutes. And another great instrument we have is an all-in-one ClimateView 50 weather station. This is a fully equipped unit, and it measures many of the same variables as our other instruments, so that when results are seen, such as that drastic temperature drop, we can verify if it was consistent across multiple different instruments, or if not, maybe there was an error that merits further investigation. Thankfully, the same drop was seen in temperatures with this unit's temperature sensor. And as this unit also measures wind direction, we can see that a drop in temperatures coincided with a change in wind directions around the exact same time. The unit also has a basic lightning sensor, which is really cool because those are oftentimes only found in much more expensive pieces of instrumentation. So this more affordable unit will hopefully allow us to compare equipment costs versus accuracy and reliability. And that can be valuable for any future weather station installations down the road. There's a tipping bucket rain gauge that we have. This measures the amount of precipitation based off an incremental internal mechanism, but the commissioning for this one is still ongoing. And now, although it's not mounted on our Met Tower, another really interesting thing that we have as part of this project was the Parseval present weather sensor. What this is a unit that uses light sheets. It also has some temperature sensors and internal logic, and it can determine the type of precipitation that is present. It can determine the size and velocity of each droplet that passes through the light sheet, and it can even extrapolate the kinetic energy of the precipitation. This should prove useful, especially for WEICan, because we have an ongoing participation with the IEA task force on wind turbine blade erosion, in which we are Canada's representative. So falling particles, when they collide with the turbine blades, can cause pitting and other types of damage, which affects the aerodynamic efficiency and the long-term performance of the wind turbines. But it also can give us another reading on precipitation intensity, which is measured by other sensors, and another thing for us to compare with. So that's really great. And the last thing that's on our tower, instrumentation, is we have 3 Campbell Scientific outdoor rated cameras, and they're being used to monitor different site conditions. And so one is pointed at the top of the tower, and it's pointed towards the ocean to monitor sea ice formation, and of course to give us a nice view of the sunsets. The other is pointing underneath our solar arrays to give us a view of the state underneath our solar arrays, which is important for seeing whether there's snow coverage or excessive drifting that's right up against the panels or different things like that. And finally, there's one more camera, not on this picture, which is pointed towards the front of our solar arrays, which is actually mounted on our substation. This camera, again, gives us a view of the front of our solar panels, so we can tell where snow coverage is happening and maybe even if there's damage that may have happened. So we have a couple photos of each. So this is the one towards the ocean, underneath the panels, and then pointed towards the front. Great. And now, so in order to easily integrate with our existing Pi data historian infrastructure that we have here, we chose to use Campbell Scientific CR1000 data loggers to measure all of WEICan's instruments. And in order to support potential for future expansion, we installed 2 data loggers, and neither are even close to full at this point, which is great. Once the data is collected and fed into our data historian, it's easily accessible through things like Pi Vision, which is a web interface, or easily output into Excel using Pi's data link. As it's the same way that we manage all of WEICan's data, it's really easy for researchers then to output solar panel performance along with the pyranometer data. And as this project was built, I have a drawing here and a photo of how things are mounted and looking. Great. So as this project was built in partnership with UPEI, they have some of their own instrumentation on these 3 other pads as well. The first is a Davis Vantage View all-in-one weather station. It measures temperatures, wind speeds, wind directions, rainfall, humidity, and pressure. It's a lower cost option, and it can wirelessly transmit data to WeatherLink, which is a web app that anyone can access with a free account if they search the station name Norway VV. On the other pad, a different Davis unit was installed, the Vantage Pro 2. This measures the same outputs as the Vantage View, but using somewhat different techniques. It was generously supplied by Parks Canada and also transmits data wirelessly through the WeatherLink app that I described before. And the last unit that was installed by the University of Prince Edward Island was the all-in-one, or the weather station with separate instruments. So it has dedicated sensors for temperatures, wind speeds, directions, rainfall, and solar radiation. It was really interesting. As a ClimateSense intern, we were actually invited out to the Charlottetown Yacht Club, and we got to assist in installing one before the weather station was installed here. And the university has similar weather stations installed all across Prince Edward Island. And finally, an interesting addition to our climate monitoring facility is the CocoRUS rain gauge. So this is actually, it's a volunteer-based network that's all across North America. And it requires manual readings of a rain gauge or measuring snow, and you report the results to a CocoRUS website every day. There's over 10,000 people that actively report, and it's all across the continent, and it gives individuals a way to become involved in climate monitoring for really next to no cost. And this was, again, graciously donated by the Mi'kmaq Confederacy of Prince Edward Island. So with this exciting new infrastructure at WEICan, there's lots of potential for more projects in the future. Additional measurement systems can be easily added to the existing data collection infrastructure should we want to measure different things or more of the same things in the future. Another cool opportunity is WEICan is a pretty far distance away from any metropolitan hubs and major industries. So it provides an opportunity for background level studies of different things like pollutants or radiation. There's also some early plans for some more cameras to be installed, which might be mounted at the top of the turbines, which can monitor cliffside erosion and near cliff sea ice formation, which is the most important. More pads could be added in the future around the existing pads if more towers need to be erected, and industry collaboration can be done for testing and verification of different sensors in WEICan's challenging and corrosive environment. And as for myself, my ClimateSense internship is finished on Friday. So I've had a fantastic time learning about wind energy, climate research, and climate change adaptation over the past 12 months. I've also been lucky enough to be accepted into Ørsted's graduate program, who are one of the largest offshore wind developers in the world. In the role of electric project manager, I'll receive training at their HQ in Copenhagen and then begin working in the budding offshore industry in the United States afterwards. As a new graduate, the ClimateSense internship provided me a great opportunity to get started in this field, and WEICan graciously provided me with mentorship and expertise to learn as much as I could throughout the last 12 months. So thank you very much for that. And that's everything. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I hope you learned something.
Thank you, Tim. That was great. And thank you for all of your contributions over the past almost a year. Now I'll open the floor to any questions or comments anybody might have. Feel free to raise your hand or just speak up. Hey, Ross.
Hi, Marianne. Thanks very much. Yeah, I just wanted to say from a ClimateSense perspective, congratulations, Tim, on a great webinar and a great internship in general. It's been a pleasure to have you and to work with the Wind Energy Institute in general. You know, our goal with these ClimateSense internships was to really sort of diversify and hit as many climate areas as we could. And having somebody in wind energy and renewable energy was really important for us. So the support of Marianne and everybody up at the Institute has been integral and fantastic to get this done. But yeah, I just want to say congrats, Tim. You know, this internship did exactly what it hoped to on the tin. You know, it got you into a position, it got you thinking about things differently and got you moving forward with your career. So good luck with it and well done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ross. Are there any other questions or comments?
I guess I just had a general question. Ryan Kilpatrick here from NRCan. Thanks for the very interesting presentation, Jordan. And It sounds like you've got some exciting opportunities ahead in offshore wind. I guess I'm just wondering generally, like you mentioned a number of new instruments and equipment. Where does WEICan see itself going in terms of climate change studies, perhaps, and the effect on the wind resource in Canada? Does this new equipment add to your ability to contribute in that area? And is that an area of interest to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that moving forward, we're hoping to continue monitoring this data and collecting it and studying it. And hopefully we'll continue our collaboration with the University of Prince Edward Island as well. And building out our climate change research and supporting studies, both within WEICan and with external stakeholders in the future.
Yeah, and I guess I'd just like to add to that. Our main goal is researching renewable energy here, but renewable energy is impacted by climate change, and climate change is impacted by renewable energy. So they have to work together, and it's important to understand both. So it is within our mandate to look at climate change, and it just makes sense because we have been around for 40 years and we have a wealth of data and a very unique site in which to do it.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Tim. I was up, trained him on the Coco Ross, and he was there. I think you were there the day we put up the instruments too, but and also the training session down at the Yacht Club in Charlottetown. So it's a pleasure working with you, Tim, and all the best in the future.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Don. I learned a lot, and I appreciate all your help.
Are there any other questions or comments? Well, maybe with that, we'll close the session. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. And thank you, Tim, again, for all of your hard work and for this presentation.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again.
WEICan.